Roderick Jones doesn't care what side of the offensive line he plays on. He doesn't care if it's left or right. Ask me how I know. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Yesterday was the opening of OTAs over on the south side. I have extensive coverage of this from a news and views standpoint in written form at dkpittsburghsports.com. 3 full columns. Stayed up like all night putting these together. You gotta go read them. And among the many, many, many people with whom I spent time in that locker room, as ever, the offensive linemen are at the top. I've been doing it that way for a long time. Those guys know what's going on. And in this case, more relevant, they're the story. They're still the thing. They're the ones that management keeps making the top priority in the draft, then bringing in more bodies, and then kind of just sorting them out as they go. So the workout begins. You take one scan of the offense when it lines up, and you see that left to right, it's Dan Moore, Isaac Seumalo, Nate Herbig at center, James Daniels at right guard, and yep, there was Jones at right tackle again. So you drafted Troy Fautanu. You were so excited about adding him. Omar Khan told the world that the 10 minutes in which he was waiting for the Rams to make their decision at number 19 were the 10 longest minutes of his life before the Steelers could take Fautanu at number 20. And then he's there with the second team, and Zach Frazier, the supposed new center, is with the second team, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And yeah, if it sounds like I'm reacting to a lot of feedback that I got, whether it's on our website or social media or in the J1Q format for this program, yeah, I did. And people were upset. And people were particularly upset that Moore was still there at left tackle. Well, I'm going to tackle this issue piece by piece, beginning with this. I put the question to Jones. You'll hear it right now.
Do you have a preference at all? I mean,
I don't
you've
care.
obviously played both in the NFL.
I really don't care what side they put me on, As long as I'm in the starting lineup, that's fine with me, I'm an aggressive player, I'm a team player, so wherever they need me to play, I'm ready to play.
All right, then. Not sure how much clearer he could have made that, right? I mean, you should have seen the side smile on his face and the shake of his head as he was answering me, as if to suggest, I can't believe that this is still a thing, that people think I care which side I'm on. And if I don't care which side I'm on, why should anybody else? Because as he fairly sees it, he was pretty good at right tackle this past season. You heard him say to me, I'm aggressive. That's his way of saying, I'm going to knock over whoever's in front of me, wherever it is that you happen to put me, okay? So scratch Jones off your list of concerns in this context. Now, to Fautanu, he was still at right tackle, as I'd mentioned to you from rookie minicamp, that he'd lined up there as well. That, to me, sets him up as, right tackle once he gets going, which is a positive if you want Jones over at left tackle or if you just value having multiple people being able to play both sides. Because, look, we can pretend this time of year that injuries don't exist and that they never happen, but then the season starts and they do exist and they do happen and they do force you to do things that feel uncomfortable. And one of the strange things about the Steelers' offensive line in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era is that guys haven't gotten hurt. And that's not normal. That probably is going to catch up with you, knock on something as I say that, but it's true. So I wouldn't worry about Fautanu in any sense. If he's going to be one of the best guys, he's going to play. Everybody expects that he'll be one of the best guys, so he's going to play. Might not be right away. Wasn't right away with Jones either. And then there's Moore, who's the real hot button in this equation. He's the one who sets people off. You just mention his name and it's, Dan Moore's gotta go, trade him. But here is the reality. Moore is still playing on his rookie contract. He's not a good teammate. He's not a very good teammate. He's a great teammate. He's the one, and Jones will tell you this himself just as he's told me. He's the one who lifted Jones up. He's the one that showed him the way. He's the one that got him through some of the tougher times this past season. And now both he and Jones are working with Fautanu, as they both talked to me about together, actually, yesterday after the practice. Awesome. No loss there. Moore told me that he expects of himself to become a leader on the offensive line with Mason Cole gone, quite possibly the leader. You can't anoint yourself that, but he can set that as an ambition because he has that personality. He's had it ever since he arrived. What's more, no pun intended, Moore told me that his coaches have expressed to him that they expect him to be a leader on this offensive line. And finally, and this is kind of important from the Moore standpoint, no, he has not been the prettiest of pass blockers. But this offense isn't going to be based on pass blocking. And the players with whom I spoken was way beyond offensive linemen on this subject. Love this offense because of its power component. They are embracing the fact that they believe they can take the field and just knock heads and be successful. So when I said to Moore, do you think that there's going to be players who, let's say, for example, the way Kevin Dotson might have been mischaracterized as someone who needed to prioritize his pass blocking over his run blocking when his run blocking is so natural that he can just send people 10 yards downfield? Do you think that certain guys, maybe yourself included, could show better in 2024 than they did in 2023 because of this? And he lit up. He lit up like it was Christmas morning. Said yes. Keep an open mind here. Long way to go. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Chris, who says, DK, how can you say that Pat Freiermuth will be the Steelers' second option as a receiver? Go get a good wide receiver. And Chris, I'm obviously not going to disagree with your second sentence there. I've been pushing as hard as anybody, I would imagine, for exactly that. I'd love to see Omar Khan bring in someone who could add something to that core that isn't necessarily in the George Pickens mold. I'd love to see somebody come in who would take the pressure off a rookie that's just walked in Roman Wilson. Regardless of how well he shows this summer, he's still going to be a rookie come the regular season. And I had a talk yesterday with Calvin Austin, who gave me all kinds of reasons why he's ready to make the next step and everything. And it sounds good at times when you're watching them out there. It looks good, but I happen to be with you on the wide receiver. Here's the thing, though. When you look at Arthur Smith's offense in Atlanta, and I understand it doesn't have to be the exact same thing in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure there won't be, but when you look at it, he'd have one wide receiver as his top targets guy, and he'd have two tight ends coming in at second and third. That's not something you just rinse off your hands in the span of a few months. It's got to be part of who you are. You're the head coach of the Falcons. You can call all of the shots. You can have everything the way you want it to be. And when he was there, that was the way he wanted it to be. I'm talking, of course, in the Atlanta context of Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. Those guys were very involved in the offense. The top wide receiver down there got 100 targets. The next highest wide receiver in targets got 30. Okay? So this is what we're talking about here, at least from how things were when this guy was running the whole thing. So between that and the conversation that I had with Freiermuth yesterday that was longer than any other conversation I had in that room yesterday, and how stoked he is, how fired up he is to have the offensive responsibility he's about to have the pass-catching responsibility that he's about to have, to be able to run the kind of routes that he was running yesterday, as I confirmed with players, because that's how you have to do it with that reporting stuff. He was lining up, not outside, but outside the line. He was lined up as kind of where you would put a slot wide receiver. He was lined up on the left. He was lined up on the right. He was running out patterns. And both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, incidentally, did really, really well to get him the football. And he, in turn, made 2 really, really good catches. And I know it's OTAs. I'm not being an idiot here, but people sometimes like to hear that sort of detail. And when I can get it confirmed and follow the reporting regulations, I'll share it with you. He was terrific. Using him the way that they did was terrific. I don't know if he can be your number 2 receiver. I don't know if the whole Atlanta thing applies to what we'd see here in Pittsburgh. I really don't. But I'm also not inclined to dump all over it, you know? Let's see how it goes. And if Omar Khan can still pull off something, great. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. I'll be back at OTAs today. And again, go read stuff. Go read the content. Go read what's on DKPittsburghSports.com. You won't have to search hard for it. All 3 columns are at the top of the app and the top of the website.